My name is Khadra Abdulle. I was born in Somalia, raised in Italy, grew up in Ottawa, and I now reside in Toronto. And by sharing each other's stories, you don't feel so alone. Your story is my story, and it's time to share it. I was born in Somalia, Johar to be precise. I came to Italy after the war broke out in Somalia. I left with my mother and my father, and actually my mother went to Italy first to seek a better life, and she left myself and my father in Somalia, as well as brand new infants, twin brothers that I had. So mommy goes to Italy to seek a better life. The Italian government recognized her education and my father's education, but the Italian people did not. And that's when the harsh realization happens that at the end of the day, they were educated under the Italian system, but they were still visual minorities. They were Black. And so the Italian people were not okay with that. And myself, my father, and my twin brothers are left in Somalia. A few months after that, my two infant brothers that were twins passed away suddenly. And that is when my mother decided to bring my father and I to Italy. And at this time, the war is still happening. Tom, Dick, and Harry are warlords everywhere. Father and I to come to Italy. We come to Italy. Father's education was not recognized as well, so he ends up being a live-in caretaker for a wealthy elderly man. So that leaves me without two parents to take care of me, and I'm given to the Catholic Church community. And I was raised by different members, from nuns to private families. And for several years, we stayed in Italy. Things were getting tough. My parents were not making enough money, and that is certainly not a life that they wanted to have. And so we decided to pack up our stuff, and we were headed to Canada. And our journey to Canada was not as straightforward as some others. So we left Italy, Roma, and we headed to New York. And we stopped in New York for a bit, and we did not want to live in America. Canada was the final destination for a better life. We stayed in New York for a bit, and then we ended up going to Ottawa, where I spent the majority of my formative years there, continued at elementary school, continued high school, as well as college. And then I packed up my bags in my early 20s and headed to Toronto. Somehow, some way, a friend of mine called me and said, I think you're supposed to be in front of a camera. Loved it. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do this. And so my first time ever being in front of a camera was just doing hosting jobs. And then went back to my friend and I said, okay, let's do this show, let's do it. And that's how I ended up doing a great show called Shaka Shaka. And it was a show that was for my community, Somalis, Blacks, East Africans, and Canadians. Why? Because we were all Canadian. And so it was shot here in Toronto. And I did that for a few years. In 2018, I left Shaka Shaka to pursue other opportunities, and did a few pilots, Aweska Toronto, which I absolutely loved. It was almost like a late night TV show for Somalis again. I was still doing that, and unfortunately COVID happened, and the pilot didn't get picked up because I think everybody was just holding on to their purses, I guess you could say that. So it didn't get funded. And then, and now here I am back to really, my passion and my calling and my purpose is still the same. It hasn't changed. And what I would love to do, and my goal, is to tell Canadians, Canadian voices, share their stories, North American voices, and then ultimately internationally. I want to tell Canadian voices, their stories. I want to tell racialized communities, whether they are South Asian, East Asian, Black. It doesn't always have to be Black. Just because I'm Black, it doesn't always have to be Black, because my story is exactly or very relatable to a man that came from Korea. And so what I want is individuals to hear these stories, really connect to it, and more importantly, think I'm not alone. I'm not alone in my journey. And there are other people that are experiencing the same thing. That's what I want to do.